Welcome to the Service MVP podcast, and my name is Joe Crisara with Service MVP, and I'm here with a really amazing colleague who I've admired throughout the years, Brigham Dickinson from Power Selling Pros. Brigham, say hi. How you doing today?
I'm well. How are you, Joe? Thanks for
Well,
letting me come.
well, no, it's an honor and a privilege to have you here, and I anticipate that I will learn a lot today from you, which I always have. Every time there are certain people that I watch and I see from afar, and I see them speak at different events and stuff like that, and it never fails to amaze me. Every time I see you speak, I learn something just a little bit new, a little twist on something that I thought I knew, but you either refine it or make it more clear. And thank you for doing that. Thanks for the service you provide the industry and all the people in the trades. Definitely, it's well needed.
My pleasure, and the feeling's mutual. Every time I hear you speak, I learn something new. So I appreciate that. I'm grateful that I could return that gift.
It's a mutual admiration society. Well, this is a great show. Then we got two people there. Between the two of us, we can get people to hear things that they didn't hear before. Today, we're going to do 3 barriers to scaling your business to be where you want to go. So everybody wants to scale it bigger. I always say if you're not growing, you're dying. As I always look at it like that way. And so even if you're trying to keep it the same, you have to grow because you're going to lose customers and stuff like that. First of all, Brigham, why don't you just tell us a little bit about how you got to the position that you're in and running Power Selling Pros, and how a little bit about your background, and give us a thumbnail, if you don't mind, for a few minutes about how you wound up in this esteemed position.
Largely by accident.
I believe that because nobody else would do it, right?
So I got a degree in marketing, believe it or not. I thought for sure that I was going to be this, amazing marketing muckety muck, and I don't know if that I was the best at marketing. I was really good at sales. Right? I could get people to believe that I was good at marketing. Mm-hmm. And this is back when it was just direct mail, newspaper, radio, and TV. Can you imagine how easy life would be if those are the 4 different types of media that you could be choosing from? And now, I mean, good luck. Good luck with all the different sorts of media that's out there. But that's what I was going to do. And one of my clients, Troy Nearings Plumbing and Heating, approached me one day, brought me into his office, and he said, "Brigham, we got to let you go." And I was like, "Why? What's going on?" He said, "Well, your leads are no good." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, they just want a ballpark price. They just want to know what we charge to come out. They just want to talk to a technician." And those are the types of calls that they were getting in. And they weren't used to those types of calls. And the reason they weren't used to those types of calls is because back in 2007, the going was good. Leads were coming in like rain. It wasn't a big deal. But then 2008 hit, the big home, crash at the time, and everybody was really tight with their money. And when people are tight with their money, they're going to be asking questions such as, "Well, what do you charge to come out? I just want to talk to a tech, or can you just give me a ballpark price?" That's it. That's the only calls you get. And so what I suggested to Troy was, instead of turning off the lead source, learn how to book those calls, learn how to wow those customers. And I had the good fortune of being taught how to answer phones by Kevin Comerford. He taught me how to do it long ago. And so I knew how to do it. I knew how to book those calls. And so I said to Troy, "Troy, just let me train your team. Don't fire me. Mm-hmm. Let me train your team, and we'll train them on how to book those types of calls that come in." And he allowed me to train them, and their call conversions went up 20%. And I got a call from Tom Robichaud, Precision Plumbing, Boulder, Colorado. He calls me up and he says, "Hey, I hear you're training Troy's team." I said, "Yep, and I'm doing his advertising." He said, "That's great. My advertising's covered, but I'll pay you to train my CSRs." And of course, the light bulb came up over my head. I was like, "Oh, sweet. I could get paid to do this, paid for a living." So that's what I mean by accident. It was a total accident. Mm-hmm. And so I transitioned out of marketing and into training. And then I had Tom Robichaud and Troy get together and say, "Hey, let's help Brigham out." And they both referred me to Mike Gugliero of Gold Medal at the time. And then from there, Mike said, "If you do a good job for me, I'll refer you to everybody." And sure enough, he did refer me to everybody. And I started hiring all my friends, Joe, and you know that I don't have a lot of friends. They're all paid. And And so we started working together, and we went from 6 CSRs in our program to well over 1,000 in our program over the last 15 years. So,
It's funny you say that. I was just had a recent joke. I was talking. I was like, I'm not sure how many friends I actually have that don't pay me or I pay them. I'm not sure. It's like you can't count family. I don't have to pay. I don't really call paying my family. I've been
it's
giving my
true.
time to the family. But it's interesting. But you know what? It's funny how we work in the same circles, because Tom is a great friend from Precision Plumbing up there in Boulder, and Troy. I didn't run into him, but Mike Aguilera, we also worked with their team as well there too. Definitely, it's funny, and I didn't forget the name drop of Kevin Comerford, who I've not really that connected with at all. So I'm definitely he's with Service Champions up here in California. So definitely,
Yeah. So he
that must have
recently
helped you.
sold to Wrench Group, and before Wrench Group, before he started his own business, he was the district manager of Service Experts
Yeah, yeah.
there in California. And so he called me up and he said, "Hey, I know you're answering phones for Royal Hockley of Arctic Air. Now he owns Royal Air now in Chico, California, but back then it was Arctic Air. Great jingle. Just call Arctic Air. The people who care. Great jingle.
Yeah, yeah.
And great brand in that small town. And I answered phones for them. I also did their marketing. And so Royal's fantastic guy. Love working with him. Learned a ton of things from him. But Kevin called me up and he said, "Hey, I want to spend some time with you." And I thought for sure it was because of my marketing ideas. Had nothing to do with my marketing ideas. When he came, he sat and listened to my marketing ideas for about 5 minutes. Really gracious guy. He kind of put his hands on all of the marketing ads that I had out, because back then it was all, it was a newspaper.
Yeah, yeah.
Newspaper articles. He moved everything to the side. He said, "Show me how you answer the phones." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Just show me how you answer the phones." And I said, "Okay, this is Brigham. They're calling Arctic Air. How can I help?" And he's like, "That's it? That's what you got?" And I was like, "Well, you kind of caught me off guard here, Kevin. What are you looking for?" And for the next 2 hours, he is training me on how to answer phones. It was amazing that he spent that kind of time with me. And when he left, in fact, right when he's going out the door, he said, "I'm going to call you every 2 weeks. I'm going to be in character. Don't you dare jump out of character. I don't care if you recognize my voice. You stay in this role play until it's done." And sure enough, he'd call up as an old lady. He'd call up as a cowboy. And of course, when he announced that it was him at the end of the call, I'd always act really surprised. "Oh, I had no idea that it was you." And, trying to impress my boss. But yeah,
That's a great story.
he taught me how to do it.
That's a great story. Well, let's go over the 3 things that are barriers to scaling a business. Like Power Selling Pros has done a great job of scaling his business. Service MVP, we are also trying to achieve it. I think a lot of other contracts, we're all in the service business. We're a lot more similar to our clients than we probably realize. I think, tell us, let's start with the number 1 barrier, if we can, to making sure that what's a barrier that gets in the way of people scaling their business to become bigger? What do you think it is?
I'm glad you asked that. About, what was it? 2016. I hit a plateau in my business. We were at 300 CSRs, right? We charge by the CSR, we train by the CSR. So it's an easy way for us to track and help us see how well we're doing, based on the amount of CSRs that we're working with. But we were stuck at 300. I'm sure no one listening to this podcast, Joe, can relate to plateauing at all. But for whatever reason you plateau at certain numbers. And I was there. The first year I was there, I was like, "Okay, cool. We're at 300 CSRs. Year 2, I was like, "Oh my gosh, okay, 300 CSRs. I guess I can't complain. We're not dying, right?" But I was dying. I just didn't accept the fact that I was dying. And so by year 3, as I began to see that we were stuck at 300 CSRs again, I started reaching around and saying, "Hey, does anybody know anyone that can help me out with this?" And so I ended up hiring a coach. His name is Johnny Covey. He is the grandnephew of Stephen R. Covey. And he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna spend Mondays with you." I'm like, "Mondays? Okay, what do you mean by that?" He says, "The entire Monday." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, that's weird." And he said, "Yeah, Yep. And I said, cool, what's your rate? And he said, it's $1,000 a day. I was like, okay. And he says, here's the catch though. And what's the catch? He says, the time that I'm going to spend with you is in your home. And then the first thing that came to my mind was that Saturday Night Live skit, where that public speaker was like, we're going to be friends. We're going to be pals because I'm sick of living in a van down by the river.
Yeah.
Right?
Matt Foley.
Yeah, that's how it felt. That's totally how it felt.
Huh?
And he said, that's what we're going to do. And so anyway, the first time he showed up at my house, he came with these oversized stickies in one hand and markers in the other. And he said, all right, the first thing I need you to do is turn off your phone. And I turned off my phone and we sat there and he started asking me questions. He said, all right, so what do you want to do with your business? I said, well, I want to scale it. And he said, okay, cool. How are you going to do that? And I'm looking at him like, dude, I just paid you $1,000. That's all you got. And I said, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I need better people. Sound familiar? I guess I need better people. Okay, cool. And how are you going to do that? Well, I guess I need to hire better. Awesome. Okay. And how are you going to do that? And he just kept one question after the other. How, and why is that important? How are you going to do that? And then he started writing on these oversized stickies. And by the end of the day, Joe, it was as if I was in what's that movie called? Perfect Mind or Beautiful Mind? Beautiful Mind. Yeah. Where I'm telling you, if my kids walked into the house after school and all these oversized stickies in my living room, they thought for sure that there was a beautiful mind going on in my head, right? Mm-hmm. It was crazy. And so finally I came to realize after about 6 months of these coaching sessions is that the number one thing that held me back from scaling my business was, you guessed it, it was me. That I was the problem, that I was keeping the company back from being what it needs to be.
So it was your people, and that people was you. That was the,
mm-hmm.
that was the thing. It was
so I was right all along, Joe. It
was the people, but number one people is yourself. It's like it's the self-inflicted wound. I mean, tell you what, it kind of comes back to it too. When there's an alternate viewpoint there, which is that it's not against it, but it's like the flip side of it, which is that leadership it figures that it seems like over time, like first it's like, yeah, the problem is me, and now it's like the solution is me too. And it's with leadership, both of those two things kind of go hand in hand, right? Brigham?
So right.
So what did you do? By the way, it's the second time now I've heard a relative of Stephen Covey, Wyatt Hepworth over at Any Hour. The guy, one of the guys who's one of the nephews or kids or somebody works over there, and it's like, oh my goodness, a descendant of Stephen Covey, who of course I love the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But it's great to see that. But yeah, so I mean, so what did you do then? When you found it was you? What did you do about that person? That did you have to hire? You got a better person there? You couldn't get rid of you. You had to you had to help you.
Well, was that my people couldn't do it like I could do it. Okay. Not only could they do it like I can do it, they can do it better than I can do it. Now, whether or not that's true, I need to believe that in order for me to scale my business. And until I believe that, I wouldn't be able to scale my business. So what I needed to do is choose to get out of my own way. That means I needed to start getting people to take certain parts of my job over for me. I needed to allow them to not only take over that job, but have the same freedom to fail that I gave myself in that job, in that position. And so...
Okay, can I stop you there? Because I mean, you've always struck me as somebody who's like, man, you don't want to piss off that dude. It's like you're pretty intense, right? So it's like, what was the mental exercise that you had to take to be able to take the step back and allow your people the freedom to fail, if you would? Was there anything that was key to you being able to mentally take that step back without turning yourself into a basket case?
So here's how, and I'm glad you asked. Here's how Johnny did it. He had me begin to look at my own principles. The ones I teach people when they're answering phones. He said, Brigham, let me ask you something. your people, when you're around them, how do they act when you're around them? And are they excited to see you or not so excited to see you? Are they more concerned or scared or afraid? And so when I said, well, it's just like what you were saying, Joe, right? Your impression is that you don't want to upset me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's not the impression I want
Mm.
as a good employer. I want them to see electricity when I'm around them. I want them to see positive energy that's contagious. That's something and someone they want to be around. So he helped me begin to realize that I wasn't following my own principles. That was painful for me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very painful. And the first thing I needed to do was to get rid of the ego, because I needed a better attitude around my team. I needed to show them that I believed in them and their ability to take on the roles that I'm playing, instead of just watching me like I'm a hero. Helping them realize that they are the hero, right? And so I needed to apply my own principles, being positive, being confident, but helping them be confident, listening, showing them that I'm listening to them. One of the main reasons why employees leave an organization is not because of their pay. It's not because of their weird hours. It's because they don't feel like they're being understood. And so me realizing that I needed to apply my own principles and give them freedom to fail inside their position. And what I mean by freedom to fail is this: look, you guys, when it was just you and you failed a customer, it hurt because you learned from that experience, but you didn't fire yourself. You didn't quit. Well, why aren't we giving the same freedom to our team?
That's true.
So
That's a great way of looking at it. It's a great way of looking at it, which is that, we don't quit when we fail. We're not like I'm pretty sure you went into this business the same way I did. Like, I don't know if it's going to succeed or not, but I'm going to be the hardest working person that ever failed if I fail at this type of thing. Like there's nobody's going to outwork me. I'll tell you that right now. I think our industry is filled with a lot of great people who have that same philosophy that, you know what, I'm probably not going to get it right the first time, but I don't care. I'm still not going to quit. I think that's something that I think if you do get rid of people who are failing in a way, you are quitting. You're not willing to train them or not willing to coach them, and because just the way we would do ourselves, we would say, hey, look in the mirror, get yourself straight, and get back in there again, right? What a great philosophy, Brigham. Again, there you go. I just the golden nugget I've been looking for right there. Thank you so much. You motivated me. Thank you so much.
yeah, my pleasure. So number one is we need to overcome our ego. That's our alter ego that basically says that we're better than everybody else. We're not. And if we want our team to believe in themselves, the very first thing we need to do is to choose to step out of that limelight so that they can step in. So when we do that, then we have the ability to scale.
Well, I want you to join me in a Uncle Joeism right now. And it's called "My Ego Is Not My Amigo." On three. Ready? 1, 2, 3. My ego is
not
not
my
my
amigo.
amigo. Boom. We did it.
Yes. He's really not.
Exactly. It's not. No, it's like, you know what? It's like, the problem always does start here. It does. Like we can't control anything else outside of us. When you're trying to point the finger at something else, most likely you got 3 fingers pointing back right at you. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. So step 2, Joe. Step 2 in this process, once you begin to work on your ego, work on yourself, and choose to step out of the limelight, the next thing is to start documenting everything you do, right? If you're going to start handing off certain responsibilities, and here's what I like to do. I like to sit down and write down a list of everything I do on a day-to-day basis. I mean, everything, every little thing. And you might, by the time you're done with this list, you might have 20, 25 things on this list. And then what you do is you painstakingly take each one of those responsibilities and put it on a sticky. Only one responsibility per sticky. And then you put that sticky on the wall of your office. Now, if you think that's annoying, it's supposed to be that way. Okay, you leave that sticky there until somebody takes that sticky off for you and basically says essentially that I'm taking this role for you.
Mm.
Now, that's step one. Step two is you start documenting everything you do that involves that one responsibility on that sticky. This way, when you are ready to hand it off to somebody, you have something, right? Now, hopefully they take this document and they make it a whole lot more, I don't know, specific, more, more detail oriented, right? Hopefully they take the one sheet of paper that explains what you do that consists of that duty and they make an entire document, right?
Mm-hmm.
A 10 to 20 page system. That's what you hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you got to give them something to work with. You can't just say, hey, here's the sticky and good luck.
Yeah.
Right. So have the system, or at least have the beginnings of the system. So step three is when you begin to sit down with each one of your employees, because step three is absolutely people. You need people to scale.
Mm.
Okay. So let's do a quick review. You need to overcome your ego. Step one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, you need to have systems in place, documented step by step for each of your responsibilities. And lastly, you need to start handing off those responsibilities to your people. So that's the last step of the three. So let's talk about how to do that for a moment.
Well, hang on
Go ahead.
Because that does answer the question for a lot of small contractors who say, like, when do I hire my first employer? When do I start scale? How do I get out of the truck, right? And I think you've just answered that question very clearly for everyone to say, you know what? Don't worry about that's the last thing, is to hire an employee. First of all, you need to get yourself in order and get your principles and your values and operate this thing. Make that promise something that you believe in because you believe in yourself. Number two, let's get document your systems. Whatever you would do, make sure you're documenting it so you can then hire people. And then step three, hire people, because that's the thing. People are like, when do I hire? Because people hire somebody and they don't have step 1 and 2 done, and they're like, yeah, what a waste of money. I just wasted, like, 25,000 on payroll for like this, whatever, first couple of months or whatever, and I didn't. I still had to do all the work because you never did train using that system. Because the system is like a training document that helps to develop those people. That there's in there. I mean, that's the golden nugget right there. That I'm gonna borrow it. I'm gonna say, go talk to Brigham Dickinson, because he's gonna tell you exactly when you should hire your first employee. I'm gonna refer those people to you. Okay.
I appreciate that. So you have people, right? They're working for you. Each one of these people have dreams. They have goals. They have aspirations. They have ambitions. And if they don't, why did you hire them? What are you doing? And what you want to do is you want to sit down with these individuals and you want to ask them about those dreams, aspirations, goals. And your hope is that you can align the responsibilities that you have on your wall with those dreams, with those responsibilities, those goals, with those aspirations and ambitions. And that's the fun part. When you sit down with them, they say, oh man, I want to do this. And you're like, oh my gosh, you're exactly what I've been looking for. You see, I needed somebody to help me with this. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh my gosh, do you think I can do that? Absolutely, I think you could do that. Now, I will help you with documents. I'll help you with training. By the way, Joe, shameless plug. This is where you and I come in, right? To give people responsibility without training, it's not fair, right? You need to put them in training. You need to hold them accountable to that training. And that's why people like Joe and I exist in this industry. So I don't know if you want to say anything on that.
Everybody has a right to be trained. That's it. If you have an employee, that employee has a right. If there's one right that every employee has, it's a right to be trained, because training is the number one service that management and ownership gives to its employees. It's not money. The training will be way more valuable than any dollar they will ever get from your company.
Yeah, and nobody's above it. You guys, I hired a coach. I paid him $1,000 a week. Right? Everybody needs a coach. Everybody does. and it's okay. It's okay to accept help and to get help and to get help for your team.
Well, because we need
So
training too. We need training more than anybody.
yeah.
If you can't accept training that you need it, how are you supposed to say other people like what? That goes back to your ego again, right? That
Mm-hmm.
what like, well, I don't need training. It's like, dude, you need it more than anybody. Like people like, you know, how are you going to scale my business? I'm like, dude, you're going to scale your own business, okay? I'm
Mm-hmm.
not gonna. I said I can give you information, but you have to create the transformation by making the effort yourself, and that's really what it comes down to. But you know what, man, I tell you what, Brigham, it's like I don't think I spent more than like 5 minutes talking to you before, and now this is the longest I've ever spent, and I think I could just go on like for 8 hours and just listen to you talk. Seriously, where have you been my whole life?
so so with these people, once they take on these responsibilities, you're going to find that you're going to have more free time. You see, you didn't just get in the business to have financial freedom, but you got in the business to have freedom over your time. And this is the key. This is the secret. Step out of the limelight. Create documents that explain each of the responsibilities that you want people to take on, and then sit down with them and dream. And then slowly but surely, you're taking off those stickies off your wall. And for every sticky you take off the wall, you give yourself the gift of time.
Well, it is ironic that we are out of time. That's we our time. It's very ironic that we ended. You just stuck that one. You stuck the landing on that one. Brigham, first of all, it's been a delight, and definitely, I know these are universal, timeless beliefs that you have and principles that you believe in, and I join you together together we join each other in this initiative to help the service industry, and I couldn't be more proud to have you on my podcast. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it.
Brigham, although I know we stopped the record halfway through. There's still way more
No,
to
it's
get.
perfect.
How can people get? How can possible is a loaded question. How can possibly people get more from you and Power Selling Pros? Tell us how they do that.
Yeah. Just go to powersellingpros.com, POWERSELLINGPROS.com. If you want to know, if you're just dying to tune into our services, click on a demo. There's a link right on the front page there that gives you the opportunity to set up a demo, and you can talk to our team about the services we provide for your CSRs, dispatchers, and coordinators.
Well, I tell you what, definitely just so you know, people like, well, why would you have Brigham Dickinson on? Isn't he a competitor? Here's what I can tell everybody. If Brigham does the job that he does, which is amazing, and we do the job that we do, which is amazing, people should be able to hire both services. There's no reason that if you're financially restricted to doing that, then probably either one of us didn't do our job properly. If you
That's
can't
true.
afford both things, so definitely I encourage all my clients who want that extra step, because Power Selling Pros teach us things that we simply do not have the depth that they do. And of course, I believe the same thing is true about the service techs and the people in the field that we do. I know Brigham does some stuff on that too, but I think there's a good starter. We have a good starter package on our customer service stuff, but it's nowhere near. I know that you guys, I admire whatever I see from you, and every time I see you on stage, and I couldn't endorse you more strongly. Definitely, I would recommend anybody who's looking to be able to get your customer service skills and your training, so that the internal staff, I believe, who needs a lot of training, who lacks training, should call Power Selling Pros, and even the people in the field. I think they could still use some of the same techniques that Brigham does. Brigham, thank you so much for helping the industry, and thanks for helping me by coming on the show. I really appreciate that.
I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, buddy.